Good evening. Good evening and welcome to another episode of MXDTV. My name is Mark Delgado. I'm your host of MXDTV. That was my phone reminding me that it's time for MXDTV, but like most things, I don't need my phone to remind me that, although I look at it anyway. I'm happy to be back. I missed last week. Looks like my pal Kevin is here, and he says, "What's up, Mark?" in San Diego, California fashion. My man. Hey, thanks for tuning in. Not what's up. Well, that's a good question, Kevin. We're gonna get into that. What's up with you, my man? Check out Kevin Parsons' Facebook page. He's a great musician, and he posts really great tunes with cool videos. And his recent one is really great. So Kevin, bravo to you. I love your stuff, and we've known each other a long time now. I met Kevin playing music in the corner of a art show one day, and Kevin, out of 50 people, was the only one listening to me, and we became friends. My wife and executive producer is here, and she gave looks like an orange heart, but I could be wrong. And then my man Joseph DiGaetano is here, and he says the sound is good, and he would know because he's a sound guy, he's a musician guy. And check out Joe's Instagram page. He posts music daily, covers and his original music, and he's a phenomenal musician and a really good guy. So welcome everybody. Thanks for being here. Sorry we missed last week. I've been struggling with my health, and I'm feeling much better now. I'm on the mend. I'm on some medication, and I've been battling strep throat, which can be very debilitating when one uses one's voice for a living. It can make things very challenging. So I basically have just been going around getting everybody sick for the past week or so, I suppose. But anyway, I'm really glad you're all here. It's March 7th, I think. And it's MXDTV episode 38. Can you believe it? Melanie and I were marveling over the number 38. So I guess without further ado, I've got a lot to talk about today, so we'll jump into it. Illness, parents, madness, perseverance, the hero's journey. We're going to talk about all those stuff. Maybe not head on, but at least obliquely, those are the things we're going to be dealing with today. And I was discussing with a good friend of the show, Lisa. I was discussing with her whether we should start with another Bob Dylan tune, and she believes we should. So we will. And I think this song is fitting. It's one of the wisest songs, in my opinion. And we'll just play it. I'm sure you've heard it. You've not heard it in this way, but that's all right. Crimson flames tied through my ears, rolling high in mighty traps, pounced with fire on flaming roads, using ideas as my maps. We'll meet on edges soon, said I, proud neath heated brow. Oh, but I was so much older then. I'm younger than that now. Half-racked prejudice leaped forth, Rip down all hate, I scream. Lies that life's in black and white. Smoke from my skull, I dream. Romantic flanks of musketeers. Foundation deep somehow. Ah, but I was so much older then. I'm younger than that now. In a soldier's stance, I aimed my hand at the mongrel dogs who teach, fearing not that I'd become my own enemy the instant that I preach. Well, my path was led by confusion boats. It was a mutiny from stern to bow. Oh, but I was so much older then. I'm younger than that now. Yes, my guard stood hard when abstract threats, too noble to neglect, deceived me into thinking I had something to protect. And good and bad, I define these terms quite clear, no doubt, somehow. Oh, but I was so much older then. I'm younger than that now. I was so much older then. I'm younger than that now. And I was so much older then. I'm younger than that now. Thanks, Kevin. Oh, look, Paul's here. Paul, the poet, Paul Abruzzo is here. Paul, thanks for tuning in. Check out Paul's Instagram page. He's always posting great writings and poems. He's a brilliant writer and a friend of the family. And speaking of great writers and poets and musicians, there's my best pal, Adam Snyder, who's got a great book out right now. He's releasing a chapter at a time. Hey, Adam, thanks for tuning in. Mr. Paul Alarengas is here. Bravo, he says. Paul, who has a great radio show on Sundays. Paul, post a link to your show, please. Sunday Ramblers. He's a great guy, Paul. Thanks for tuning in, brother. Hooray. Oh, yay. Hey, Mark Hanlon's here. Speaking of poets, so many cool poets and friends here. And there it is. That one was for you, Lisa. Lisa is a big Bob Dylan fan, and so she requested more Bob Dylan. And I, being somebody who wants to make everybody happy, I played a Bob Dylan song. But the reason I played it is because I find it to be one of the most insightful songs, and it's a great way to start the show because I'm going to be talking a lot about parents. I'm going to be talking a lot about madness and the influence of outside forces, people always thinking they know what's right, as opposed to us deciding what's right for us. And I think that's the trick, is learning what that is. I really do. Let's see. There it is. All right. Thank you, Paul. Thanks for tuning in. That's a link to the great Paul Alarangus's radio show, which I highly recommend you tune into. It's really great. I lost my train of thought, but basically I think I was just talking about the thing I always quote about Bob Dylan is he talks about Woody Guthrie and how Woody Guthrie, his music, you could listen to it and learn how to live your whole life. And Bob Dylan has been that for me. I too love Woody Guthrie, but for me it's Bob Dylan, and listening to his songs has really influenced my decision making and the way I feel about things. And typically when I'm in a weird mood or I'm feeling something, I can find a Bob Dylan song that will address the issue. Mary, the interstate finally revealed my fate. I watched the sun turn red outside Virginia at 6 a.m. As I rode along, I started to hum you this song, something new and different than motel dirge inside my head. And it goes like this: I love you, baby, and your wrists are white as stars. And Mary, the human race is flawed and filled with hate. We can't change their minds. We can only sing the songs we write. And they go like this: I love you, baby, as you sleep beneath the stars. Don't forget now, I love you, baby, as you spin beneath the stars. We can only be just who we are. Mary, the interstate winds and makes its way. It'll take you far afield, where it's hard to know just what is real. When you're a long way, when you're a long way from home, when you're a long way. Don't forget now, I love you, baby, as you sleep beneath the stars. We can only be just who we are. Let's see. Fred's here. Fred, I haven't heard from you in a while. Great to be here. Oh, right on, man. Thanks for tuning in, Fred. It's been a while since we've talked, my friend. Good. Thanks for tuning in. On break, the MXDTV viewers are dedicated, ladies and gentlemen. They will make every concession to attend an MXDTV episode, and it's greatly appreciated. I decided to play that song. I don't know. I feel like I play that song a lot, but I really like playing that song. I play that song with the band a lot, and I play it out a lot, but I always feel like it works best on MXDTV. It's a very personal song, obviously, and it's could be considered a little on the cheesy side, but I don't care what anybody thinks. I mean, that's not true, but I really like that one. I remember being very proud of that song when I finished it, and feeling a great deal about it. Anyway, Mary Scout and I, Melanie and I take turns taking her and picking her up to school. But when I take her to school, we have a routine, Mary Scout and I, and we listen to music in the car, and she will request things. Right now she's really into Men at Work, which is really great for me because Men at Work was so important to me when I was a kid. And but I put on Cat Stevens for her this morning, and the immediate effect that Cat Stevens had on her was unbelievable. And I think Cat Stevens is a guy who straddles. I mean, he writes these songs that, like, in anybody else's hands would be considered probably pretty cheesy. He sings about God and love and all these things, and childhood and spirituality. But in his hands, he just really knows how to do it, and it's very sincere and moving. And the effect it had on Mary Scout this morning was incredible. She closed her eyes, and she'd never heard these songs before, but she was like singing along. It was really, really wild. I'm going to the first reading tonight is from Larry McMurtry's Terms of Endearment, and let's see. I know it's the best movie ever, isn't it, Lisa? Harold and Maude, totally. I agree. One of my all-time favorite movies, in which Cat Stevens does the soundtrack. I'm gonna read from Larry McMurtry's Terms of Endearment, which I've been reading and enjoying so much. And this may not. I thought about whether I should read this or not. I apparently marked this page a while back. I've way past it now. And it may not seem like a candidate for MXDTV because usually everything is like so, I don't know, a little on the heavy side or dark. They will vanish away like your dad's best jeans, denim blue, faded up to the sky. And though you want them to last forever, you know they never will. That's right. That's a Cat Stevens lyric. Thanks, Jason Albright. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Fred. So I'm going to start with a reading from Larry McMurtry's Terms of Endearment. Oh, Let There Be Light. I can actually see now. And I'm just going to read it. I'm not going to explain too much about it. But I'll tell you the characters if you don't know this story. Many of you have probably seen the movie. Hey, Mark Vincent's here. Hey, man, love you too. The amazing Mark Vincent from up north. What a wonderful musician, and what a great guy too. Hey, man, good to see you. Okay, so this is from chapter 4 of Terms of Endearment, and the characters you're going to hear are Emma, who is the daughter. I believe in the movie it's played by Deborah Winger. You're going to hear the name Aurora, which is her mother, and I believe she's played by Shirley MacLaine. You're going to hear the name Flap, and that's her Emma's husband, and that's played, I think, in the movie by Jeff Daniels. But I'm just going to read it. You don't need to know too much. It's just this is a really good sample of the book, and I think it fits nicely with everything tonight. So this is the beginning of chapter 4. Emma had learned something about heat from life in Houston. Heat was an aid to suspension, and there were times when suspension was an aid to life. When she really didn't know what to do with herself, she had learned to do nothing at all. It was not an approach her mother would have approved of, or Flap either. But then neither of them was ever around when feelings of purposelessness seized her, so it didn't matter. If it was very hot and she felt really purposeless, she did nothing at all. She took off most of her clothes and sat on her bed staring at the bureau. The reason she stared at it was because it happened to stand against the wall, exactly opposite her bed. She didn't read at such times, though often she took a book along for a prop. She ceased to have definite thoughts or feelings, definite wishes, definite needs. It was enough to sit on the bed staring at the bureau. It was not really like living, but it didn't hurt. It was not boredom, not despair, not anything. It was just sitting. It was certainly not a state she tried to guard. Anyone could interrupt it if they chose, but she herself didn't particularly try to avoid it. When Flap had gone away and her mother had called and she had peeled half the orange and not eaten it, she thought of a number of things she might do. She was a senior biology major, and there was all sorts of lab work she could be doing. She had a part-time job in the zoology lab and could always go over and prepare specimens when she wanted company. There was always company to be had in the lab. What kept her home was simply a liking for home. Perhaps it was an inheritance from her mother, for her mother had 100 possible outlets too, and seldom used any of them. Both of them liked staying home, but then her mother had every reason to like it, since her house was one of the nicest places in Houston. Immediately upon moving from New Haven, her mother had decided that good Spanish colonial was about the best one could do architecturally in the Southwest, and had made her father buy a lovely Spanish colonial house on a fairly old, fairly unfashionable, 1-block-long street in River Oaks. It was open and airy with thick walls and rounded doorways. There was a small patio upstairs and a long one downstairs, and the green yard behind the house backed up against a heavily wooded gully rather than another street. The trees along the gully were immensely tall. Her mother had the house painted every few years to keep it white. She had never air-conditioned, except, after long argument, her husband's den and the little guest house in the backyard where her father, Edward Starrett, had lived his last years and died. Aurora loved her house so much that she seldom left it, and Emma could sympathize. Her own cluttered garage apartment was hardly that lovable, but it was an easy enough place to be suspended, and when Flap went off with his father, that was what she did. You may be wondering why read that, or maybe you enjoyed it as much as I do. The whole book is that way. It's full of humor. The characters are really quirky. Mother and daughter argue quite a bit, but they are in constant contact with each other. They obviously love each other very much, and I just find it fascinating, one, that none of those people are real, that they're entirely made up by the author, which I find to be fascinating because it's so enjoyable and they seem so real, and I just really love that. I'm thinking of my mother a lot. Yesterday was I hate to use this word, but it was the anniversary of her death. She died when she was 60 years old, and she died of some complications. She had some blood problems and a blood clot that ended her life very suddenly. And when I was quite young, I was probably in my 30s, and she's been gone for probably over 20 years now. I'm not really good with exact dates, but you know, I was close to my mother, as my sisters were, and my mom was not unlike this character because she was bizarre and she was given to fits of rage and she was hard to get along with sometimes, but she was also one of the sweetest people you would ever meet. So I loved her very much. And she's been gone for so long that it's so strange because anybody who's lost a parent can, or anybody close to you, it doesn't really ever go away. It's just troubling because you don't think of them as much as you used to. Not because you've gotten over it, but just because life goes on and there's so many other things happening. I'm going to play you a couple songs from my new record that I'm working on. I think I've played this once before, but this is a new way of playing it. The great thing about working with my partner Justin Tracy is we always end up with about 5 or 6 different versions of songs in here. So this is a new version. This song is called The Secret Underground Railroad to Freedom. And oh, our time is short. The end of our endless days we soon report, and all royalty be damned. They thought they had control, but soon they found you can't pay off those volunteers who showed up with their buckets all full of tears to put out the fires raging east of Eden. Please don't ever mention the things you've seen there, and always remember to tip your waiter. And oh, where do you stand? Don't pretend you're here to lend a hand. And oh, you think you're smart, but everything you do just falls apart. Keep your eye on the ball as it swerves across the plate, smacks you right in the face. And even if you finally get on base, you find out the umpires have all been paid. The man in the stands, well, he owns all the bleachers, and he bought all the players and he sold you those sneakers. Now there's a message you can sing. The Salvation Army girls are waiting in the wings. Across the ocean, down the hall, it's a dream you dreamed outside a restless shopping mall. But you can't see out a dirty window, and you will never know which way the wind blows. Picking up those leaflets and magazines, it's a filthy subscription for something obscene. It's a tired and a useless unwanted prescription. It's a snake oil cure for a nagging condition. The man in the cloak waiting right off stage, written into the story from the very first page. It's an ending that you knew you could never escape, an exploding candle on your birthday cake, and you pass through the eye of the needle to the kingdom. It's a secret underground railroad to freedom. It's a secret underground railroad to freedom. It occurred to me in my many hours contemplating and worrying and thinking about the end of our life, death, the inescapable, unavoidable. The thing I keep trying to think about, or at least maybe come to terms with, is that perhaps, let's see what Mark has to say. Oh, man. Thanks, dude. Thanks, Mark. That means a lot coming from you, man. Thanks, you guys. Thank you. The thing I think about, or I want to think about, or I want to believe maybe, is that perhaps at the end of our life, the cycle of life, all of our troubles, all the things we struggle with, our madness, our demons, our addictions, our hang-ups, our meanness, our misunderstanding of the world, our inability, all of those things maybe come to some kind of wonderful end. In other words, the end is not the end, but the end is the beginning. And I'm not talking about heaven or some kind of payoff for being good or something like that. I don't want to think about it like that. And since nobody has an answer, nobody can tell me any different. But my hope is, or maybe my belief these days, is that the end of our life is a really wonderful release, and it's the only true freedom, because in this world, to be free, and I realized somebody sitting in a house in upstate New York is not that overwhelmed with I know it's all relative, but even so, my whole life I've struggled to be free of one thing or another, and so like for instance my mother, I wonder and I hope that she suffered, and at the end of it, hopefully it was a release for her. Anyway, I think that's what that song is about. It's about, I think I wrote it when I was, it was during the midterms or something, and I was just so fucking pissed off about listening to politicians lie constantly. It's just, I get so overwhelmed with anger because I feel like I'm constantly being lied to by people who pretend to have my best interest in mind. And it makes me angry. I'm going to play you another new thing. In the words of my friend Todd Edelman, after I showed them this at the song group, he said, "I'm not sure that's a song." Affectionately, he said that. But I'm a fan of spoken word. So this one is entitled... All right, thanks for tuning in, Fred. Fred's got to go back to work, ladies and gentlemen, so we appreciate him coming out and tuning in. So this is a song entitled "You Can't Stop Thinking About Your Own Death." And we have a lot of fun when me and the band have been playing this one live. It's been a real hoot. So here it just kind of sounds like a campfire thing, but... Well, you walked in from out of the cold and you made yourself useful for the first time in your whole goddamn life. And you brought with you all those stories from Fresno and California, and you were tired of them. But you were always talking about some unseen force, or some thing that had a hold of you and had wrangled you to the ground. You were always talking about Mr. Sorrow, the way he lived inside your mind. Remember that time you found a black widow living underneath the arm of your couch? You just got done pulling all the pictures out of the bedroom and you dragged them out there onto the lawn. Remember that time you smashed all the mirrors in your house and you pulled the sink out of the wall? That was Sacramento, remember? You thought you'd come to the end of the road or the end of the world or something, but it wasn't really that bad compared to what would happen next. Remember San Diego? 16th and Imperial? All those people living out there on the street? Remember that time you drove that guy down to Los Angeles? You drove around Skid Row for an hour or so. Whoa, man. It was all there. You drove around Skid Row for a while. You thought you'd never come back from there. But your time was never up. And now that you're safe, much safer than you've ever been, all you can think about is your own death. The way you're gonna go, the way you're gonna die. And all you can think about is your own death. The way you're gonna go, the way you're gonna die. Okay. I moved around a lot when I was living in California, Sacramento, San Diego. I'm going to read you, I've decided to read some Larry Levis poems tonight. If you know me or if you've ever tuned into MXDTV, you know that I love Larry Levis. He's my favorite poet of all time. He's from Parlier, California, which is just outside of Fresno, California. And he grew up on a farm there. And I love the picture on the front of this book because that's what like everybody in Fresno looks like. I think my hair kind of used to look like that. Still kind of does. Down to the jacket and everything. It's like how everybody looks. But I'm going to read a couple poems from here. This one is called, it's got a great title. Hang on, let me find it. This one is called To a Wall of Flame in a Steel Mill, Syracuse, New York, 1969. Goes like this. Okay. Except under the cool shadows of pines, the snow is already thawing along this road. Such sun and wind. I think my father longed to disappear while driving through this place once. In 1957. Beside him, my mother slept in a gray dress while his thoughts moved like the shadow of a cloud over houses, and he was seized suddenly by his own shyness, by his desire to be grass, and simplified. Was it brought on by the road, or the snow, or the sky with nothing in it? He kept sweating and wiping his face until it passed, and I never knew. But in the long journey away from my father, I took only his silences, his indifference to misfortune, rain, stones, music, and grief. Now I can sleep beside this road if I have to, even while the stars pale and go out, and it is day. And if I can keep secrets for years, the way a stone retains a warmth from the sun, it is because men like us own nothing, really. I remember once, in the steel mill where I worked, someone opened the door of the furnace, and I glanced in it at the simple, quick, and blank erasures the flames made of iron, of everything on earth. It was reverence I felt then, and did not know why. I do not even know now why my father lived out his one life, farming 200 acres of gray Malaga vines and peach trees twisted by winter. They lived, I think, because his hatred of them was entire and wordless. I still think of him staring into this road 20 years ago, while his hands gripped the wheel harder, and his wish to be no one made his body tremble like the touch of a woman he could not see. His fingers drifting up his spine in silence. Her fingers drifting up his spine in silence until his loneliness was perfect and she let him go. Her laughter turning into these sheets of black and glassy ice that dislodge themselves and ride slowly out onto the thawing river. Well, I'm going to read one more of his. This one is called The Wish to be Picked Clean. I still oversleep these winter mornings. I still can't decide. Last night I desired only a stillness in the wake of each thing. The air held inside a dead spider on the sill, or inside a shell washed up this morning, or even the air of a struck chord when the pianist seems to lean over slightly, as if he strains to hear a note just under his own held breath. I wanted once to be picked clean by music, by wind, by sunlight. I would stand outside in the winter dusk. I would think of those extinct Scottish poets who placed stones on their bare chests and then laid down in snow each night until the right poem came. They praised always the hard ways of their Lord. Their grins frightened even their wives. It took me 15 years to learn how not to pray. And tonight I toast a blind black man with a cane who I met once in Louisville, whose socks were unmatching, one a fading gold, one white. It was humid in the park, and he sat there, smiling at each thing I said. I thought he liked the feeling of the sun on his face, or on his hands, or that he liked my company. I learned later that he was simply terrified, and that a gang of boys had crept up earlier with sticks. I was too young then. I was nothing then. And in the morning he was not there. I still wake up with no beliefs. But looking out this year at the brown grass, I think that frail man is dead by now. And though I do not know if the veins on the backs of his hands were sacred, they stood out while he listened, as if his blood was thinking. If I could imagine him now, picked clean and without pain, by the salts of his own body, as the top of his cane must have been polished for years by the sweat from both his thumbs, it would be easy. It would be a wind no thicker than your wrist over this page, or the music of wind when you hear it, suddenly, sitting alone in a cafeteria in Louisville, while the river there, the glittering Ohio, goes on with what it does. And each night over it, the stars are bright and deep, and no one speaks to you. Well, I'm sure you can hear it in my voice. I'm still recovering. And yeah, I mean, there's really not much one can do when you get sick, but try to get better, I guess. I'm going to play a couple more songs. Time's flying by. I feel like time is flying by. That's what I feel like. So I'm going to play this. I've been speaking a little bit about Mr. Sorrow, who's perhaps a made-up demon or a real demon from my past and in my life. Somebody who I used to know, and he doesn't really come around anymore, but he was my constant companion for years and years. And are these things real? I don't know. But here's a little song for him. And I knew you'd come, dressed in a sweater, and I know you'll stay through the winter. When we are done, I'll feel much better. I'd rather be dead than sit here and wonder about you. The things that you sell, the heat waves of August, the freeways and the London motel. Can you be kind? I'll never be rid of the feelings you always remind me of. Your smile and your charm, waltzing through Fresno in summer. I'll be alright again once you're by my side. Downtown is cold, the chill can be bitter, and it's hard on the bums and the girls on the corner. But when I see those lives on fire, I know that it's you behind the pyre. Yes, you, the stories you tell, bookstore killer, the freeways and the London motel. Oh, trouble, be kind. I'll never be rid of the feelings you always remind me of. Your smile and your charm across the bridge to West Sacramento. I'll be alright again once you're by my side. I still oversleep these winter mornings. I still can't decide. So usually I would launch into the whole first part of The Wish to Be Picked Clean, which was the poem I just read, the Larry Levis poem. So if you listen to the record, you can you can hear him actually reading it. We recorded it. We stole it off of YouTube and put it on there. And I just love that poem so much. And let's see, we've got some people. Melanie has posted my PayPal and Venmo accounts. And those are simply for anybody who wants to support the show. That's not a tip jar. If you don't have it, don't worry about it. If it's something you feel compelled to do to support the show and me, go feel right ahead. Jay Fung says he's late as usual. I would expect nothing less, Jay Fung. And Dwayne Rail would be proud of you, because Dwayne Rail felt punctuality was overrated, and I tend to agree with him. However, my wife does not, and so you'll have to reconcile with Melanie later. Thank you, Kevin. And so Mr. Medrano is here. Tomas Medrano. So we got some serious Fresno action here. Jay Fung, Tomas Medrano, big shots, big time musicians, great friends. And yeah, yay, everybody loves Tom. I love you, man. I love you guys, Jay and Tom. So great that you're here. These are really good, close friends of mine. Jay, I didn't know when I lived in Fresno, but only know now because he's in New York City. But these are Fresno guys to the bone. My sister Franny is here. Oh, goodness. Oh, boy. Good. I would expect nothing less, boys. Tomas, can I say this now? Tomas has a new record coming out. It's all the work is done. The artwork is being finalized, and he's putting it together. Well, I would say the same. So Tomas has a new record coming out. Tomas is one of my favorite musicians, and if you know his music, he would be one of yours too. And I'm trying to talk him into coming on the show to play some songs and talk about his new record. So here I'm doing it publicly to humiliate him and put pressure on him to come to the show. That's because I'm predictable, Jay Fung. That's how you knew that. So, let's see, how are we doing on time? Well, we're coming to the end of the road here, but I had more things planned. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to play this song for California, since we're now in New York, Jay Fung. Come to New York City, Tomas, absolutely. So this is a song called California. It's about all the places I lived in California, or as I like to... Oh, yeah, that was fun when you guys surprised me. Yes, do that again. So this song is called California. Grapes cut a long green scar across the face of the valley floor. Like all wounds, it tells the story, the song of how the West was won. 'Cause out in California, the harbor town's a killing floor, washed with methamphetamines, and all the longshoremen's hands, they bleed through a cracked glove upon the wheel. 'Cause out in California, you find the sun, and up north the capital gain. Make the rules for everyone. And a man with a suit and a chain, well, he's with you all, then he's gone. crowned with a head full of thorns. Sodom and maybe Gomorrah. 'Cause out in California, they spend their nights in bars, and they ride off in a stretched limousine. Maps to the movie stars. 'Cause they want to make you believe that out in California, out in California, out in California, you find the sun. Oh, another Fresno man is here. This is Steve Medina. I love you too, man. And Steve lives across the street from my childhood home, where we grew up, and he's there. He's moved back into his childhood home, and he sends me pictures of my childhood home, which is now occupied by somebody else. Good to see you, Steve. Love you, man. So we got a lot of Fresno people in the house. Thank you, Melanie, who's heard that song 8,350,000,000 times, as Melanie, Mary Scout would say. I like to try to keep it at an hour, and we're almost there at an hour. I felt like there were so many things I'm really not getting to, but that's okay. It doesn't matter. The important thing is that we're here together, that you're here with me, and so cool. I think what I'm gonna do, I was gonna read some more from Kathleen, from my mother, but I think I'm not going to do that. I think I'm not gonna do that. Well, maybe I was gonna read this one part. I don't think I am. Instead, I think I'm going to just read this Frank Bedart poem and leave it at that. I mentioned Frank Bedart in this story. In the story, my mother's ghost comes back to visit me, and she comes to one of my poetry classes, and she sits down beside me, and we're studying Frank Bedart in the story, who is from Bakersfield. Anyway, this is the book. I'm just going to read this poem. This is the book. It's called Stardust. And if you've never read Frank Bedart, I highly recommend it. Anyway, this poem is called, and this one's kind of for you, Melanie, I think, and for everybody who's tuned in, really, all of us, because, you know, it's really good. It's a really great poem, and Frank's a really smart guy. And this poem is called "Advice to the Players," and it goes like this: there is something missing in our vision of a human being: the need to make. We are creatures who need to make. Because existence is willy-nilly thrust into our hands, our fate is to make something. If nothing else, the shape cut by the arc of our lives. My parents saw corrosively the arc of their lives. Making is the mirror in which we see ourselves. But being is making not only large things, a family, a book, a business, but the shape we give this afternoon, a conversation between two friends, a meal, or misshape. Without clarity about what we make and the choices that underlie it, the need to make is a curse, a misfortune. The culture in which we live honors specific kinds of making, shaping or misshaping a business, a family, but does not understand how central making itself is as manifestation and mirror of the self, fundamental as eating or sleeping. In the images with which our culture incessantly teaches us, the cessation of labor is the beginning of pleasure. The goal of work is to cease working, an endless paradise of unending diversion. In the United States at the end of the 20th century, the greatest luxury is to live a life in which the work that one does to earn a living and what one has the appetite to make coincide. By a kind of grace are the same, one. Without clarity, a curse, a misfortune. My intuition about what is, of course, unprovable comes, I'm sure, from absorbing as a child the lives of my parents, the dilemmas, contradictions, chaos as they lived out their own, often unacknowledged, barely examined desires to make. They saw corrosively the shape cut by the arc of their lives. My parents never made something commensurate to their will to make, which I take to be, in varying degrees, the general human condition, as it is my own. Making is the mirror in which we see ourselves. Without clarity, a curse, a misfortune. Horrible the fate of the advice giver in our culture, to repeat oneself in 1,000 contexts until death or irrelevance. I abjure advice giver. Go make you ready. I think that's a pretty great poem. Yeah, I like that Syracuse poem too, Adam. I almost took it out, but I couldn't. I reread it, and I was going to take it out, and I decided that I cannot. Thank you all for tuning in. Stay on the path, as they say. No matter what, don't get out of line. Against all my better judgment, rock on, J Fong. Hey, Philip Swanson, thanks for tuning in. Yes, you're welcome. Philip Swanson has a great live stream called The Listening Booth. Check it out. Thanks for tuning in, brother. I'm going to end against all of my instincts with a Cat Stevens song because I love it. And so what? One of the true poets, one of the true artists. Anyway, this is a little song to finish this evening. I listen to the wind of my soul. Where I end up, well, I think only God really knows. I sat upon the setting sun. Never, I never wanted water once, but never. I listen to my words, they fall far below. I let the music take me where my heart wants to go. I swam upon the devil's lake, but never but never, I'll never make the same mistake. Never, never, never. All right. Thanks for tuning in, you guys. You are. I love you, man. Love you, Kevin. Thanks so much, everybody, for tuning in. What a joy MXDTV has become in my life. Thank you guys for tuning in and your support. And I think I'll be back next Thursday. I might have a gig. I do have a gig. Oh, tomorrow night, if you're in town, what a crowd. I know. What a fun crowd. Thanks. Tomorrow night in Fleischmann's, New York, wherever that is. I don't know where that is, but I'm playing at a place called the Print House, and I'm doing 2 sets starting at 7 o'clock. If you're in Saugerties, Saturday night, I'll be at Auto Camp, playing there from 7 to 9. Hey, Franny, I love you too. That's my wonderful sister, my eldest sister. And next week, I think I have a couple gigs, Thursday and Friday, so I might do a special Saturday night MXD TV. But I will do one next week. Thank you, Mark, for tuning in. Take care. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. See you next week. Okay, great. Thanks, Jay. Thanks, you guys. Love you. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week. Bye.